so I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 6:05. So I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from January 4th, 2016. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from January 4th, 2016, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Okay,
No.
I'll break the tie.
Right.
Motion passes. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
You have correspondence from the auditors dated today.
Anything else?
You will have a member of the public coming at 7 o'clock. It was gonna be 6, but now it's 7 o'clock, so, Laura,
Okay,
that was on the agenda, but it's 7 o'clock.
all right. Is that it?
You can probably delete, let's see. The bottom two under old business, land sales update, I haven't talked to the attorney, and that meeting on the SeVEDS transfer station, I don't have anything new to report on that.
What about the transfer station notices?
Yeah, I don't have anything on that metering, Grace Cottage Hospital lease, or the transfer station
Okay.
notices, so we can cross those, off the agenda, and
You know what I don't have a copy of? The initial work done on the Knox box. You might wanna see, or do we wanna just put that off?
oh, I've got a whole folder, I can pull that, even
Okay.
though, I don't know what you mean by initial work, but I can pull that when the time comes.
Well, then there's gonna be two. That's fine.
Off of this. Actually, we have correspondence from the auditors, and you have correspondence from Patrick Kiernan.
From whom?
Patrick Kiernan, who is one of the auditors, but not on an audited matter. There's correspondence from him, and then the auditors have given you a report as well
Yeah.
today. And then I believe,
Okay? All right, then, which way would you prefer to do it? All right. Then Kurt, what do you have for us here?
I don't have a lot for you.
Okay.
Been chasing these little storms. T9 is down right now. It had a new turbo put on under warranty. And brand new lines and everything. We came home. Bob checked the oil. The next morning, of course, we go salt and brand new line on the turbo and blew. So tomorrow I'm calling Delirious up and they're gonna, I'm not bringing the truck over there. They can bring it over here, or they can come over here and fix it. Just little breakdowns here and there, you know. Hydraulic T8's been okay. Little hiccups here and there with it. But just these little storms stink. Saturday storm's tough. Very slippery. Had some people off the road, but we tried to just scrub things down and wait to the end before we did sand and stuff like that. But around the couple accidents we had, the people just had no idea. We had so many people up here, it was not good for the holiday weekend.
Something about bumper cars up in the acres?
Yeah. Yeah. And rental cars.
Well, the rental cars, you better.
Seven people, 3 cars, all rental cars, and one of them did end up hitting a car coming up the hill that was somebody who lived up there. But yeah, they were tough to deal with. Well, they came up for the long weekend. I had a question on paychecks. There's a section on the paycheck called leave time. We don't know what that means. It had quite a few hours in leave time. No idea. Yeah, we don't know what that is. I want to talk to Terry about the paychecks and stuff. The policy wrote for the paychecks. There is something in the labor law book about time. If our time is not set in by Monday, 9 o'clock, I think it was. I didn't bring the copy with me. But by law, we're supposed to be paid for the time we worked. There's a whole page on it in the labor law book from the feds in the state of Vermont that she should just look at.
Paid for what?
If we work 40 hours or more, we get paid for the 40 hours, and the next following week we'll make up the
You're
difference.
talking about being paid for hours that you've not submitted timesheets for. Let's be clear.
Yes, if the timesheets do not get put in on time, by chance for some reason.
Okay, I have also discussed, and I've actually gone to an attorney with that.
Mhm.
And we're not required to pay you for time that you have not submitted a timesheet for. And time and pay is going to be a matter of multiple discussions this evening. And so if you want us to catch you up after we have a meeting tonight and have a chance to talk amongst the four of us, I'll be happy to do so. But at this point in time, if those timesheets aren't there claiming the hours that you worked, we are not required by law to pay you 40 hours you're not salaried. And that's straight from the senior attorney at VLTC.
That's, we interpreted it wrong then, that.
You're right about the 6-day frame though. When you turn in your timesheet, the town has, most employers in Vermont have 6 days to make good on that, basically. But that 6-day clock starts with the timesheet, coming in and being valid. If there's a problem with the timesheet, that sort of invalidates some things, depending if it's, and we've had some problem timesheets, but.
Well, now that it's done in-house, we can.
Well, it's in-house, and that leave time is a generic, I believe, in the NIMRIC. I haven't looked at it, we're now in the NIMRIC program. There are people that do have leaves of absences, teachers, things like that. This program is set up for all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, but they're on all of our checks, and we have we didn't leave, we worked,
Right, but there should be.
Ed did leave, he put it on the sick time because his daughter had a.
That's not what leave time would be.
I know that, but we don't know what it means on our paycheck.
Right, and it will be worked out very, very soon. You'll see your sick time, your vacation time, your holiday pay time segregated out differently. She's still in the process of setting that up, but she's done it for so many years in other towns that it shouldn't be that big a deal. And we should have, from what I understand from Anita, direct deposits as of this next payroll. We'll be going back to the direct deposits.
Well, Monday morning will be that time anyway. That's what I did for years.
Yep.
Timesheets Monday morning.
Yep, well, it's changed now to Monday mornings again.
Right,
at
which
9
was-
o'clock, at least at the moment. So-
Fridays messed us up for the reason on overtimes on Friday nights and.
Right.
Right.
And from that standpoint, when Terry and I discussed it, the 9 o'clock Monday morning gives her ample time then to fall within her window of getting those checks out, but also to make any corrections or ask any questions that she needs to ask prior to. The only thing that's left this board is a problem of having any oversight whatsoever over the time before the checks are cut. And that's something that we're going to discuss this evening.
The week is still running the same now, as is in the policy, right?
Yes.
Friday night, midnight to Friday.
Friday night, midnight.
Yep, okay.
And which will be fine.
Okay.
I have nothing else. Does anybody else have anything for me or no?
Well, I think Kit has something for you. So I would entertain a motion to find that premature discussion, if it were to take place in open session, would cause the municipality to be at a severe disadvantage.
So I'd make a motion that we move
You
into
just move it. Just move it.
executive session.
No, just move that first motion.
Well, so
To find that premature
All right,
discussion
yeah,
would place the
move it.
municipality at a severe disadvantage.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention. Okay, so we find that we would be at a disadvantage. Then I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session to discuss personnel issues under 1 VSA 313A3.
Invite Kirk to join us.
Well, we have to vote on the motion first.
So move.
Is there
Second.
any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
We're gonna
Opposed?
go in at 6:17.
And we're going to invite Mr. Bostrom. Okay, so we're out of executive session at 6:30. Oh, Jesus Lord. All right, there's nothing from law enforcement.
Oh, as a result of executive session?
There's no action.
No action. Okay, I thought you were saying, oh, Jesus Lord.
No,
Okay.
I'll say, oh, Jesus Lord another time.
Okay.
Okay. Law enforcement, there's nothing to report that I'm aware of.
We back up, because as a result of executive session, the highway foreman will address the issues with the employee
Okay, that's generic enough.
and report back to the board. Okay, so
Yep, no, that's fine.
you got a paper trail.
All right. So town clerk, you all had your little counter money sheet. So you saw how much money we've made. Recording fees and garbage bag sales. Did I say something? I'm hearing noise.
What?
Nothing? Anyway, treasurer, Joe,
I have nothing.
you have nothing, huh?
But if you wanna know, I can get it for you the first thing in the morning.
I don't think it's changed that much. We haven't spent any money that we don't know of, have we?
No,
Okay.
and we put in some since the last meeting and whatnot.
Did we ever get the, what were you waiting for money for? Something.
You were waiting for money from paving, and the answer is no. Kit wasn't here, we paid off 200 of the 250 on the tax anticipation notes. That we borrowed, the money we borrowed this summer, just like, you may have seen it on TV, but just so you know that. Joe made that payment a couple weeks ago, before Christmas. There's money on that, we're still waiting for the ERAF on the FEMA money, but that should be dribbling in any time. That's a minor amount, well, 15,000, but it's relatively minor. We have a big chunk of it. And we're waiting for the roughly 30 on the payment. So
Okay.
we'll get after that as soon as we get out of the rest of this craziness.
All right, so, I would ask you all, you've all got a packet of timesheets. They're numbered 1 through 6. You do. What's building empty? Craig,
I'm sorry.
is the building empty?
The building is empty.
Okay.
Let's see,
Kit doesn't seem to have his.
right here.
There it is. Okay.
Yep.
All right, then we're gonna go down the list. They're numbered so that we can discuss them without dealing with the name of the employee. We're going to discuss the issue. This is related to warrant number 5 that we'll be talking about shortly. So the first, number 1 on the list, you can see where everything is circled. Number 1, it wasn't signed by the supervisor because the supervisor was not comfortable signing off on the hours. The hours that are in question are in fact highlighted. This seems to be an issue where this is a weekend, and in fact there was another event going on that almost made it impossible for the number of hours that were put down.
So, have we talked to the supervisor at all?
We have talked to the supervisor, and the supervisor is just uncomfortable
But
signing
is
off
the
on it.
supervisor gonna address this with the person, or what?
Can't. It's kind of, he said, she said sort of thing. Nobody was here on that particular weekend to validate, verify. It's like a lot of these where somebody says they work from 6 o'clock until midnight.
So we're gonna.
Unless you were here to verify that sort of thing, and the supervisor was not comfortable in signing off on this, did not believe that, given the activity that was in this building on that particular Saturday, that the employee worked a full 8 hours.
So it is the supervisor's responsibility to address that, whether they're comfortable with it or not, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't know if the individual is legitimately a supervisor. It's certainly nothing in writing.
I mean, basically,
I mean, it comes down to the board. I'm sorry.
what we're going to come out to a resolution on all 6 of these. There's gonna be a recommendation to deal with all of them. But we need to look at them one by one so everybody understands what the issues are. Okay, so that was number 1.
There's nothing new about this particular style of problem.
Right.
this type of problem happens all the time.
Okay, number 2 is, a day, the date that's circled on that one in particular, there's absolutely no question in anybody's mind that the individual was not there on that date. Whether or not it's just a misprint, an incorrect date is another story, because the person was there the following day for roughly that amount of time. That's part of the issue. The second part of the issue is the fact that you cannot read what the hours are for. I mean, we have no idea what.
It is probably a simple calendar mistake, but that day, definitely, the individual was not working, and that's absolutely validated, perfect. The next day, however, which was not claimed, the individual was working, so it's simply a calendar thing. But these little problems, whether they be errors in addition, or errors in putting down the calendar, or documenting the time, are replete, and the people that you're paying are all adults. They ought to be able to turn in something which is legitimate and valid and professional.
And you'll notice there was a submission on 12/23. Does everybody see that? It's the fifth one down. That is essentially claiming the individual was working from 6 o'clock in the evening until 11:45
That night, yeah.
that night.
Well, it doesn't say AM or PM.
Well, but you have to
Yeah.
assume they start, you've got
Because it's
2:40.
2:40 to 3:45.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's the problem on number 2. Number 3.
Not on that one,
Okay.
just before you go any further. If you can't make that legible so you can see what the hell it is, how do you know?
You don't?
You know.
No, he's either, that's something that you gotta be told, you gotta make it legible.
Well, it's pretty much in the policy, and it's pretty much rule of behavior for most adults in the world who want to get paid, that you do something that you're proud of.
That's what I'm on warning, if you don't make it legible so we can read it.
They're already kind of on warning.
No, but I say, give one more on it, that's just one more nail to the coffin.
Okay, the next one on number 3, there's questions about Christmas Day. There's 3 hours claimed on Christmas Day, and there was nobody here.
Well, there's absolute no access to the
There's
building.
no, but there's no total either.
Well, actually, that is the correct, well,
What?
it's total a number of times, but the individual did not have access to the building.
On Christmas Day.
In fact, was just given a key, you saw, on Friday.
But I don't have any total hours either.
Total
Well,
17, I believe, or something. It's in the
Because it-
warrants, might be more legible in the warrants.
That it, I thought.
No, but if you add that and that and that and that and that and that, that don't come up anywhere near.
Also not signed, you know, it's just, it's kind of sloppy.
I mean, you'd have to look at it's actually in there. But yeah, the big question was the Christmas Day one.
I'll find you the original if
If you add those hours, there's nothing here that says total.
11's, well, it's 17 to the 25th.
Oh, 17, okay, 22.
And then you add 17, and then you add 9.
26.
Right.
See, there's nothing here, that's,
There is a 17 million.
yeah, but it's not, everything's scribbled out on the time
Oh,
sheet.
on
There
that?
is no total hours. The 17 don't,
Yeah, but there's a line and then the 17. And then these are added later.
this says total hours.
I understand, but you also changed calendar years.
So then do a different time sheet, am I right?
Well, you could do that, but that still doesn't change the fact that there's no way
I
there was
understand that.
access on
I
that one.
understand that, but to me, this time sheet is,
Well, how many, do we actually have, no, that would have been put in,
Monday, last Monday.
we don't have a sheet for the amount of pay, do we?
Sure.
Let's figure out the number of hours. What's, 17 were put in?
If that's the right one, that should be the right one. You need a calculator?
Yeah, I would, because it's not
Yeah.
broken.
No, I know, you're not gonna, we don't have peoples anymore.
And is it 2.2?
0.5 equals. That look right?
No.
Oh, no, no, last one. That's what I'm coming up with.
Well,
Oh, actually, I think 17. 17 to there, no, I had those two.
I was gonna-
Add
that's
nine
what
more.
that's what we're trying to
Yeah,
figure.
Yeah, another 9. 26.
no, it's actually more than that.
Well, I hope not.
It is. The net, or the gross.
Well,
But so in answer to your question, that slip that's in that payroll packet
I got it right there.
was for the 26th. That's what it shows on the sheet.
For 26 hours.
But it actually shows for a little more than
Yeah,
26
you
hours.
can see it doesn't say that here, and that's all.
But you could,
Divide that number by
Okay.
the weightage.
26. That's what I come up with.
Total hours is 26 hours, but
26 and 3/4.
Huh?
Or 26 and
26
2/3.
hours.
But that's not what the division of the math on the
Oh,
pay
on
sheet
that.
shows. The amount of pay was, that was the amount of pay.
Yeah.
Okay? So,
See, one of the issues that I brought up, and you're gonna be discussing this in a moment, but if the timesheets are due at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, and the checks are being printed by noon, you guys don't have time to do this before the checks go.
okay, so let's move on to number 4. And again, it's the same issue. You do notice there are new timesheets, they are cleaner.
So,
What am I looking
but
at?
I made up new timesheets and I had Saturdays.
Oh, no, well.
6, no way.
Yeah, no, that's typical. You know, it's still difficult to figure out, but what, on 3, 4, and 5, or 4, 5, and 6, I think what we need to point out, or more than anything, is we had multiple employees sitting in repair shops waiting for vehicles. at
There's
full
a
rate of
story
pay.
to this, I don't know how far you wanna go on camera.
Not
Probably
too far on camera.
Okay.
In other words, there's a lot of question about what's going on for the time.
Time management.
Right. You know, you've got one here, half an hour to sharpen, and that half hour is actually ends up being overtime.
Well, no? No? Good evening. You can have a seat.
Okay? So, all of these, all 6 of these,
I'll tell Kip the story after.
okay, all 6 of these, basically, in my mind, lead us to have a discussion that this board has had every year since I've been a member of this board, and that's whether or not we're at a point where we need to consider a time clock to avoid the illegibility, to avoid the question of whether or not hours people are actually in the building, to avoid just a lot of these issues, the mistakes being added up, or, you know, the addition and subtraction errors on these sheets. The board at one point in time last year did in fact vote to purchase a time clock for both this building and for the highway department. And at the time, the driver behind that particular discussion disappeared, for lack of a better.
Yeah.
2 of them.
Yeah, but the ones are brand new, and
There was,
There
and
was
I've said for years since
They
I've been
can't
on the board,
find
you
it.
gotta have a time
No,
clock. I've
because
always
they
said
let
that.
everything go with the building department.
So basically, the board last year did vote to go ahead and do the time clock. I know Craig has looked them up 5 or 6 times for us, to find out what they would be. One of the issues, if we decide we're going to institute a policy that involves time clocks, you have to punch in, you have to punch out. We have to figure out what the policy will be if they forget. As you heard, we had a discussion tonight about having to pay them for 40 hours when in fact they don't turn in a timesheet for 40 hours. We have to have a policy, it's gonna have to be clear what we're doing, number one. Number two, we're also going to have to consider having some type of security cameras around these time clocks to avoid,
Somebody doing do.
well,
No, they make fingerprint time clocks.
yeah, but they're expensive.
How much money?
So it's getting boned on a whole bunch of hours all the time.
Well, but, you know, just a simple security camera would keep vandalism from happening. Which is, I know what we were concerned of in this particular building when we had talked the first time, was vandalism, having a soda poured down it. There's a lot of people in and out of this building, and they have to be in a very open location so that anybody who comes in to work in the building will have access to it. It can't be in a locked room where there would be no access.
I'd just like to say, for the 7 years that I've worked for this board, and Kip knows this as well as, well, everybody knows it pretty well. We've tried very hard to get this straightened out, and I think the responsibility rests with the employees to turn in a it's really not that hard. A cleanly written, legitimate timesheet on time, and you'll get paid on time. No
Into the
questions are
7
gonna be
years,
asked.
it has not happened.
But we have rearranged schedules here, we have made it so that the board has time between the time it arrives and the time it actually goes out for printing, and when we had a payroll service, that was the case. And Kathy and I were in here with other board members on many occasions. But Kathy and I have been in here for the last 2 years, every other Saturday to look at. And it's never been I won't say it hasn't been a waste of time. We've always found something to
never been
look at.
clean.
And it's not fun, it just isn't fun. The board has given the authority to the bookkeeper. I requested it, it was given to me, to basically hold back anything that was questionable. I never did that, we always brought it to the board, we always sorted it out. But it's hard to sort it out after the fact. And this last time around, the last payroll that I put in, after about 2 years of doing it, and getting it out on time, getting it out right, this last time around, we did not get pay sheets from the highway employees. I withheld the pay, and I got an awful lot of kickback from it, an awful lot.
Well, you had it tonight.
Well, I got a lot of
Well, I got it the other night.
I got a lot of kickback from it, and basically I wasn't wrong in doing it. I was following board policy, and as it turns out, everything was perfectly legit. We should have done what we did. The miscue and the misreading of the law and all that was after the fact and was misinterpreted by those who brought charges against me. That having been said, there's a new bookkeeping office, we have a new submission time, and the problems haven't changed. And now we're doing it in-house, but they're still very hard for this board to correct now, because these checks are out and already cashed. It's very hard to withhold from the next one. You know what I mean? It's hard to do it after the fact.
And I'm gonna say what I've been saying for my 20 years on board, whatever it's been. We need time clocks.
And I don't,
We need to do a time clock and in today's technology, have it done with a fingerprint so that
I think we need employees who appreciate the job enough
You ain't
to
gonna
turn in
get
a
it.
piece of paper.
you're not gonna get it.
Yeah, and
The
that's,
past 20 years demonstrates that you're not gonna get it. It's
Well,
not gonna happen.
they're gonna run you
So
about,
unless
they're
you're
gonna run you
ready
about
to-
300, they'll run you about $300 installed.
Don't
If that's all it runs.
That's all it runs.
and don't they need a computer to back them up?
No.
For
These
the
are simple,
fingerprint?
no, but we're not talking fingerprint.
No, he's talking
I'm talking
fingerprint.
fingerprint.
Okay, well, then we're gonna have to look a little deeper, because that's not what then you're gonna need a computer to back it up for recognition patterns and time date stamps and all of that. I'm talking about the mechanical simplex you used them when you were a
We
janitor in
bought
high
one and
school.
put it up there and they refused to use it.
They
That
had
wouldn't
one
happen
up there, it
anymore.
disappeared. It was never installed, but they bought one. I don't know when you guys, that was before my time, but there used to be
It
one.
was
out there.
installed, it was plugged in right on the shelf.
Yeah, it's
And they
gone.
refused to use it.
But they refused to use it.
We got in a big tussle over it and the same thing.
Well, if you don't get a
New
time
board,
card at the end of the
landed.
week to make a check out of, then you don't pay the check. I mean, it comes down to something that simple. That having been said, just the mechanical punch, you put your card in, you push the button, it stamps and the date, day or night.
No, I know, those are expensive.
No, they aren't.
No.
No, with the cards and with the rack and all that, you're looking about $300. They're easy to come by. And I've not shopped them that carefully. Some are better than others. But if you're looking for fingerprint or eye scan or double read, and I'll almost guarantee, I hate to say it, but I almost guarantee something's gonna break.
Don't be so pessimistic about it.
Okay.
Go into it with an open mind.
I'm going in with an open mind, but there's gonna be some resistance. But we can, I mean, the board can think about that and make that decision. What Kathy brought up as a secondary corollary to that, if you're gonna put in time clocks, you need to put in video cameras to watch the time clocks get used. I think those right along with it. Those are dirt cheap, but you need something to back those up with. You need a computer,
Yeah, I mean,
DVR, or something to,
You can bypass a video camera easy enough if you know that they're watching you do it.
Well, but more than, like I said, there's a lot of people that are, on the weekends, that are in and out of this building. And we need to have the ability to know if somebody dumps a soda or dumps, I don't know, a chocolate bar down it, you know, how that happened or when that happened. And it wasn't an employee sabotaging it, it was in fact somebody who's going to get a bill for a new time clock. You know, so I think from a vandalism standpoint, it makes sense to.
In both locations, right?
Right. Because there are a lot of people that have the access coded to the town garage. So the same thing could happen.
a lot of people.
So is this something that you want to think about? Is this,
I've thought about it personally.
well,
We
then,
ought to do it 20 years ago.
if you don't want to think about it anymore, then perhaps we need to go ahead with the motion and then begin figuring out the policy piece that's going to have to go along with it. Somebody?
Well, I would make a motion that we install time clock in the highway garage as well as the town hall. And have it monitored with camera.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on that? On the purchase?
And here again, it's, you'll be looking at a change of command here pretty soon, so I don't know, I'd see that following, but I don't know.
This can be done fairly quickly. I'm gonna need an advisory on how sophisticated, what your budget line's gonna be. We can talk about that afterwards.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can talk about it afterwards or now.
Right,
You know
but-
what my preference would be, but start small, I don't care, at least. I don't know.
Well, if you're gonna have the cameras, then you are gonna have either a small computer, a link somewhere into a, I don't know what, web space or something. I mean, you're gonna have to, if you're gonna have a camera, you're gonna need to have it recorded. And that's either gonna be a little DVR and a monitor so you can watch the film, or like what they've already got at the highway garage. And actually, that has an open frame on it. That'll take 4 cameras. It's only got 3 on there now, it's thought of that. That having been said, if you have a camera that's hitched to some sort of computer mechanism, then you can probably connect the time clock to it too. And then you can get more sophisticated. With a fingerprint control or with some sort of an ID card, ID badge or something.
I don't know how all that works, I'm not a
Yeah, neither am I, not enough,
technological kind of guy.
not enough.
So there is a motion on the table to buy time clocks, and it's been seconded. Do you want to vote on it and then have Craig come back?
I'd like to see what the difference would be if you had to have your fingerprint.
We can do that.
Price in the clocks, then there's no getting around it.
Well, that's very true,
Unless
but
you got grease on your thumb.
not true.
We probably have bought enough hand cleaner to get that taken care of.
So,
That's part of your policy. You got grease on your thumb and it don't work right, then you don't get paid. Wash your hands before you clock in.
Clock out.
Out.
We all checked in, got grease on our thumbs.
so we're going to go ahead and vote on whether or not to proceed with the purchase. And we'll have Craig bring us back additional information on
We'll
the
get information.
price. Does that sound all right? All right, so all those in favor of purchasing time clocks for the town garage and the town hall, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So will you be able to have something for the next meeting then, Craig?
Oh, easily. I'll have something at the end of the week.
Okay. Let's go ahead and finish up with the treasurer's piece on the financing, the office staffing. One of the things that now that we have taken the payroll back in-house, that has become very clear to everybody who's in the building, is you need some redundancy in that office. In other words, if the bookkeeper who's doing the payroll or the checks now were to get ill or have an emergency, and I think we went through that with our last treasurer, then there's nobody to step in and get those paychecks done. So one of the thoughts was we do have a warning, or an article in our warning that talks about the auditors and whether or not we could take that to an outside source as opposed to an in-house elected position. And if that's the case, we do have someone who's currently working as an auditor who might be interested in being an assistant.
Yeah, but you can't be an auditor and
Nope.
hold anything else.
That's if we don't have auditors, because we're doing an outside person, an outside service, then you don't have that, you no longer have that conflict.
No, I don't know about that. If somebody doing books, and somebody going over the books can't do the same.
No,
But you wouldn't have that. I mean,
have it.
right.
Not if we do,
If you did it, if you did that same person as a payroll, you would have that.
If you
Be a conflict of interest.
if you eliminate the office of auditor, then you wouldn't have that conflict. Or if the auditor that Kathy's referencing was no longer an auditor after town meeting, you wouldn't have that.
in other words, we're asking the town if we can hire an outside auditor rather than
I
elected.
realize that, but they can't be the one that case to back up as a payroll.
No.
Right, no, they wouldn't.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, first of all, the outside auditor has to be a CPA. The person we're talking about as a backup for the bookkeeper
that's
is
all.
not a CPA. So that wouldn't be an
Yeah,
issue.
no, I misunderstood it.
But basically what we're looking at here is if we're going to get some redundancy in that office, we need to build that into the budget at this point in time. We've already, for those of you who weren't here, we've already made arrangements to go with an outside. I was very kind, I didn't.
That was kind.
Wasn't it?
How was your Thanksgiving anyway?
There was a
Yeah.
little,
We did make arrangements to actually be able to move the money from the auditor's line into a professional line. That's already included in the budget proposal we were looking at. We would just need to add something additional to finance office for an assistant for that position.
And we'll get the budget here shortly.
Right, so, it's just something I want you all to be aware of, that we need to think about, the fact that we do now have a responsibility for getting those paychecks out.
Yeah.
All right, then I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules and allow, your name please?
I'm Alex Beck.
Okay.
I'm from SeVEDS.
Okay,
Alex Beck.
Yep.
Okay, I got an email that Laura Sibilia was gonna be here.
She is
On her way in a couple minutes. Okay, that's fine.
So,
BECK? Yep.
would you rather wait for Laura?
It's really your preference. I think she would bring a lot to the conversation.
Okay, well then we'll just go ahead and take care of paying our bills, then if that's,
Please, don't mind me.
all right, then I withdraw my
I didn't write it down.
Good,
anyway,
it's
doesn't matter.
gone. All right, so then let's do the warrants wherever they ended up. Craig's got them.
I've got it. Who's gonna read it?
Oh.
I get the rock.
What do you make? Make a motion, paycheck warrant number 92108.
921? No.
I'm sorry. 011801 in the amount of $6,368.28.
Was there a second?
second.
Was there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying payroll warrant 011801 in the amount of $6,368.28 signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay warrant number 011802 in the amount of $2,476.14.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying warrant 011802, which is payroll withholding, in the amount of $2,476.14 signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant report number 01183 in the amount of $8,943.77.
Is there a second? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, should that warrant number should be 011803?
No, because I never put the zeros in. That was, Terry did the payroll, put the zeros in. But you will get into double-digit numbers. I'm just marking them 1, 2, 3 through 12.
Okay. Whatever, you mark them however you want.
Yeah, okay. And this is a general fund warrant?
Yes,
Yes.
and there was a second, was there not?
Yes, there was.
Okay. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying warrant 01183 for the town general fund in the amount of $8,943.77 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant report number 01184 in the amount of $1,776.74.
That was general fund? I believe. Yeah. I think it was general fund.
General, yeah.
That's the legal.
Oh, yeah.
Second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying warrant 01184 from the town general fund in the amount of $1,776.74 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The
Now
motion
that's,
passes.
just so we're clear, and it's a matter of record, but that's for legal transactions on a tax form.
Regarding the tax sale. Yeah.
Regarding a tax sale.
Upcoming tax sale, I should say. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 011805 payroll in the amount of $11,994.46.
Okay, the number on the front and the number on the back don't match.
They don't match? The one on the front is copied from the one on the
Yeah,
back.
they do.
So that's my writing, so I may have miscopied it.
No, I must have misread it. Okay. Go ahead. Is there a second to that? There's no second to the payroll warrant?
Sorry, Ted.
Oh, what was it, general fund or equipment?
No, that was
No,
payroll.
that's payroll.
It's the second payroll.
Is that the one we're discussing
Mhm.
tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll second it so we can discuss it. And
Okay.
I mean, you have
Do
to
you want to
do
hold
that.
it off until the end of the meeting? Whatever that, you don't table it, but maybe you table it until later?
Well, I'm gonna second it so that we can discuss it, right?
Okay.
Okay.
The discussion.
All right, so is there any discussion?
Well, the discussion needs to be, is our concern over the timesheets that we just discussed earlier. And if in fact,
The board is going to take
the
action.
board
on
is
any of
gonna
them.
take action on any of those timesheets, or we're going to pay those timesheets as submitted.
They already have been paid, but if you're going to take it, then you'll have to talk about
Do a
that
correction.
separately and separate, maybe later on.
Well, if they've already been paid, then it's a moot point on whether we approve it.
Well, that's always going to be the case, because you're always going to be looking at them after the fact unless something changes on the way pay runs. I mean, sometimes they coincide, but generally it's after the fact.
The only thing we could do would be to correct them if we had an issue. But the pay's already been done. It was submitted last Friday, or the checks were submitted last Friday. or given to the employees. At this point in time, if we want to correct them, it would be a correction in the next pay period.
But it would be an action for this board at this meeting to say that somebody's going to be docked 2 hours pay in the next pay run, and make that enacted, or something.
But you ain't gonna do that until you, I mean, each one of these pay, what we discussed earlier, 1 through 6. From this discussion, I thought when we looked at these, we were looking at ways to address these issues in the future.
Beforehand?
Before, so,
You've got a couple
I
of-
thought that the timesheet,
Yep.
the time clock was gonna address these issues. I mean, I thought that's where we came up with that.
Okay.
So if these have already been paid,
They were just paid this last
But they
Friday,
haven't.
basically, check payable
Right.
Friday. You've
So-
got a couple of new ones in the drawer for the next time around, and the board should look at them before they get
That's
put
right.
into the queue.
Yes.
So that's why Kathy and I,
That's
that's why we were trying to fill that gap between submitting them supposedly, having them submitted by the employee and actually typing them into a check. Was to have the board review them and make sure that the board was gonna approve them. Now, if they're already in the system and already paid and already cashed out, it's very difficult for the board to retract them
that's right.
or
And-
correct them.
And
But it's easier
so,
now, but it's easier now
I'm
that
just
it's
of the
in-house.
mind that, as a matter of discussion, that we should pay these, but each one of these timesheets that we had issues with or are concerned about need to be addressed with the person that submitted the timesheet.
Okay.
Am I right?
We could
Yeah.
certainly do that.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
But if the board were gonna take any corrective action on things that have already been paid, then you might wanna do that as an amendment, or as an amendment to this particular warrant. If, on the other hand, you're gonna let it ride because it's already been paid.
You can't make an amendment to it because it's already been paid. The only action you can take is on the next warrant prior to it getting paid. And this warrant has
Which would
already
be-
been paid.
Well, but that's the way the board has dealt with this for years, is that
I know.
payroll comes in, and when you look at payroll, basically, the checks are already out.
I know.
And that's part of the problem, which is why when we had the payroll service, we were so fastidious to not get them into people's bank is what it was, because it was impossible, not impossible, but very difficult to change it after the fact. It's much easier in-house to do that, now that we're in-house, so to
That's
speak.
right.
But it's still problematic, hugely problematic.
But there's a couple of issues, right?
There are many, yeah.
But one of the issues is, are we signing this payroll tonight because it's already been paid? Right?
Basically, whether you approve it or don't
Don't
approve it, the
make
checks
any
are already
difference.
cashed.
It ain't
Right.
gonna make any difference.
Right.
So the real issue is let's take issue number, or timesheet number 1, addressing this hourly issue with this person. And during that conversation with the person, to decide, okay, now we're gonna have
Was
to
it
document.
was it overpaid?
What's
Right.
the appropriate action? I mean, on each one of these timesheets. Okay, and then address it in the future. And
Okay.
That's what I think.
Yep.
I mean, it's already been paid, I don't know how you're gonna. It's a little, to me, it's a little bit difficult and stumbling to not, I mean, signing that thing's already, it's the thing I hollered about.
But it is a moot point, but I mean, to some degree, I mean, signing this warrant is authorizing the treasurer to make a payment.
Yeah.
However, the
Payment's
bookkeeper's
already made.
office has already made the payments
That's right.
in order to meet the 5-day
So,
requirement, 6 days.
As far as signing the warrant, my second stands.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying warrant 01185 in the amount of, or a payroll warrant in the amount of $11,994.46 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Pass it on, I'll sign it.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number
Oops.
011806 in the amount of $5,205.84.
Is there a second? there any discussion?
Just as a matter of discussion, that is
Deductions.
that's the
Withholding.
withholding for payroll of warrant number 11085, the
Right.
one that we just discussed. So that's the withholding portion of it.
So is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying warrant 1011806 in the payroll withholding in the amount of $5,205.84, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 011807, Equipment Fund, in the amount of $785.13.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying warrant 011807 from the equipment fund in the amount of $785.13, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 011808, Highway, in the amount of $907.38.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Can I just see that one?
PC 8.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying warrant 011808 from the highway fund in the amount of $907.38, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 011809, Equipment, $1,276.57.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying warrant 011809 from the equipment fund in the amount of $1,267.57, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 011810.
10.
10. Equipment in the amount of $866.82.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes. Can I see that one for a minute, please? There's a,
Lack of
I'm sure I get
documentation.
lack of documentation for, I'm trying to think of the name.
One of the invoices in
Patriot.
there.
For a Patriot invoice in the amount of $400.22. And spoke earlier with Kirk, and he does not know what that bill is for, so we don't have any documentation what that's paid for. So I would amend the motion, is that right?
Yep.
Amend the motion to payroll pay order number 011810 to read the amount of $466.60.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second.
What was the new number again? I'm sorry.
466.60.
Okay, nice.
Is there any discussion? Okay, so
And
that'd be 2 votes.
who seconded? You?
Yeah.
You seconded? Yeah, nice.
All those in favor of amending the motion to $466.60 from $866.82, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So all those in favor of paying warrant 011810 from the equipment fund in the amount of $466.60, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 011811, Highway, in the amount of $130.30.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying highway warrant 011811 in the amount of $130.30, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 081012 Highway in the amount of $100.
Okay, I've got it.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying highway warrant 081812 in the amount of $100 signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, I told you we were gonna pay bills. Yeah, you're up. You just introduce yourself if you would, please.
Sure. So, hi everybody, my name is Laura Sibilia. I'm the Director of Economic Development for the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation. And I'm gonna hand these out to you. And with me, I have Alexander Beck this evening. He also works for the Brattleboro Development Credit Corp. He is our Workforce and Education Specialist. You're welcome. And coordinates all of our young professionals activities. He is also handing out for you information about another program that we have, the Windham County Economic Development Program. He's here on behalf of R.T. Brown, who also works at the BDCC, to talk about the Windham County Economic Development Program. These are the VY funds that came in through the settlement between the state and Entergy. And I think we'll start with that, and then we're here and really happy to talk to you a little bit about SeVEDS for as long as you'll have us. So, Alex, why don't you talk about Windham County Economic Development?
Thanks. So as Laura mentioned, this is the Vermont Yankee funds that are made available through two primary ways. One of them is a very, very low interest loan, and the other is a competitive grant process. And so those are the two processes in which these loans or this funding is made available. And the key goal of this funding is to help grow and expand businesses pretty much of any size. And the kinds of projects that these that usually qualify for this funding, equipment, infrastructure, those big pieces that are needed to expand and bring new jobs. So in terms of loans for a business, it's those kinds of capital infrastructure projects that are best suited for this kind of investment. The grants, these competitive grant processes, so you can be a nonprofit and apply for this funding. Those kinds of projects need to focus on job growth and economic development specifically. So an example of that would be a co-working space or an accelerator or a nonprofit that serves to help other businesses or benefit the workforce in some way. So we might not often think that a nonprofit's goal is to create jobs, but if it is such, it's a fantastic candidate for this. This program, it runs on top of any already existing state funding. So if the business has a VEDA loan, this goes along with it. I believe that the Windham County Economic Development Program, it's about 2% interest, so very low interest loan is the way it's implemented. You can see that there is a small list of eligible use of proceeds, and on the very back you see the goals: creating an entrepreneurial environment, improving wage parity, size and quality of the workforce. All of these things help qualify a project. And if you know any businesses who might need this funding or might be interested in this funding, RT's information is right there. And I know that he's always more than happy to come out and talk with absolutely anyone who may be interested. So that's really the long and the short of it.
RT also makes the offer when we go out to towns, if the select board wants to put on a meeting and have businesses come and, have us come and talk about this program, happy to do that. This is one piece and it happens to be pretty flexible in terms of funding that's available for businesses. So, do you folks have questions on that program?
I just do the competitive grants. I was involved with the competitive grants the first go round, and the grant application process was horrendous. And as far as I'm concerned, it left beyond a sour taste in a lot of different individuals' mouths. So has that changed?
So the first process, I don't know which application you were a part of, but I think it was pretty universal, that feeling with folks. I don't know if you attended the meetings that were here.
Yes,
As
we
did
did.
I, yes. And so that process over the first set of applications that went in, they went in straight to the state. There was really not a local component, a local organization, a local review, any kind of, this would make some sense. One of the things that, I don't know if you folks have met Adam Grenold, he's the executive director, he's still the new executive director at BDCC, though he's been there for a year, Wilmington native. I would say one of his early successes in the past year has been working with the state to help put together a local face before the applications go in to the state. Both to work, so RT will work with anybody who's thinking. You have to put in a letter of interest first before you go through the process of filling out all of that paperwork.
So you've gotten rid of the component that threw a lot of people for loops were the individual planning commissions and their approval. You had to have a letter of approval from the planning commissions before you could even submit.
I don't think that is a part of it anymore.
Okay.
And that was part of the, so VEPSI and the Agency of Commerce, VEPSI is the Vermont Economic Progress Council. They were the ones that ended up kind of ranking and going through all of these. This is part of the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. That piece still exists. There's been some improvements to the application itself, but that state piece still exists. What Adam has done and BDCC has done is put in front of that something to make it a little more user-friendly at the local level, to give you more advice. So you say, we're interested, and we say, tell us a little bit. Oh, let's not waste your time on this. Or, okay, no, this would be good, but let's make sure you have this, that, and the other thing. Put you together and then send you up with a recommendation to the state. So it's a little better, I would say, than it was.
Another
previous
notable
years.
another notable change is that initial workshop that everyone must attend, it's online now. So what it really transformed the program is, instead of being, if you're here, and if you're not, too bad. It's more of a revolving, rolling fund now. So it's available throughout, and access to all the resources to get you started are available on your schedule, not the workshop schedule. So that was another significant change. That's new.
At the end of the day, Governor Shumlin still makes the final decisions. So, there you go.
Which is one of the objections to the whole program, is that it's so politicized. At every step of the level, you need to jump through certain hoops that are set by politicians, whatever those goals are, but the parameters are set by people who judge whether you're worthy or not to get in. It should be strictly, in a lot of people's opinion, an economic consideration. This is money from Vermont Yankee closed down. We were all ratepayers, we all paid in. The money is not being distributed to the ratepayers by me and my wife getting a voucher or a check. It's going into business and economic development, which may or may not benefit. And if I'm of a different political spectrum than you, and you're making the judgment about who is qualified or not to receive the funding, as that first step, as it goes up the line to the, the next one, the VEPC, and then ultimately to the governor. And the governor is ending his term and gets to make whatever choices he wants. But that'll be passed on to the next governor. The next governor may be a Republican or whatever. But it should be based, if you're gonna have economic development, it should be based on sound economics.
So I would say that this program is set up so that decisions can be made on sound economics.
If they meet green energy criteria, if they meet all kinds of other parameters, well, that seemed to be the way it was set up
Well,
originally.
seem and is are two different things.
Okay.
So, and we're
Okay.
here tonight to help kind of get some of the details out.
Well, that is one of the impressions of it, is that it is heavily politicized.
Well, and I would not argue against that.
Okay.
At all. And in the end of the day, when you have the governor still making the ultimate decision, I think it would be hard to deny that. So, your point taken. I would say, I think that our agency, in particular Adam, has done really good work in terms of dialing that back and trying to get more people involved in a transparent way. So we've got a regional council We've got folks from Vernon, which makes sense, sitting on the council, looking at these applications. The Regional Planning Commission, the Development Commission, folks from Brattleboro, et cetera. So, and they're just organizing at this point, sending on up and doing assessments. So we are happy to hear any kind of improvements.
Does the
that come
town
about.
have to apply for this and then give it to the businesses?
No, the businesses.
I was
can
gonna
do
say,
this.
'cause we've been through.
That's a
I've
CDBG.
been around a day or two, and we've been through two of them that, they had great credentials, but they went down the tube.
That's a CDBG application. That's federal HUD money that comes in. And so the towns are the only ones that can apply for that on behalf of their business. So this is not that way. So on this program, we okay? Yeah, okay. So how much longer would you like us to be here? So I can talk to you for another hour. I can talk to you for another 10 minutes. I just want to kind of temper where we're going to go here.
Let me put it this way, we have a budget to pass and a warning to pass tonight.
Okay, and so how about if I take up no more than 15 minutes?
That would be fine.
And you'll cut me off if I get past that?
Okay.
Okay. So, how many folks have heard of SeVEDS? Okay. So, just a little refresher, SeVEDS did start as a loose grassroots effort to expand broadband in the Wyndham region. When SeVEDS started, the former executive director at Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation was Jeff Lewis. He connected with a number of folks throughout the region. I was actually at the Mount Snow Valley Chamber at the time. We had folks from Marlboro, we had the town manager in Brattleboro, some folks from the Wyndham Regional Commission, and really we were trying to understand what's the deal here with broadband and cell. We don't have enough. We know that our economy really is counting on us having sufficient speeds and ability to talk on the cell phones. Let's start understanding this. And so meeting with a number of providers, starting to understand where service was, where it wasn't, and educating ourselves because there weren't really a lot of other answers out there except to figure it out yourself. No one was coming in to save the day. So in doing this, we ended up meeting with Fairpoint, had brought in a consultant to work on rural economic development when they had come in and bought Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine's lines. The reason that Fairpoint would bring in a rural economic development consultant is because most of their lines are in rural areas. And so that means less dense, less customers. So they figure if you grow the economy, if you grow the demand for broadband and cell, you're going to grow the take rate, right, for the product. It kind of makes sense. So let's see what we can get going on here in our coverage areas. Through that process, we had been meeting, starting to understand and think about our economy, and their consultant came and went around Vermont. Nobody really cared to talk to them about the economy in Vermont, except us, and we were just kind of trying to figure stuff out. And so we were able to sit and meet with this group, Vital Economies, and really start to understand by looking at data that our problem was not that it wasn't a lack of broadband, a lack of cell. It was really our economy was not doing that well. That's why we didn't have the broadband and cell. And so merely trying to bring in broadband and cell was not going to fix the situation. We really needed to have a better understanding as to what was going on in the Wyndham region. Through that, we went through a couple of years process developing the Wyndham County Economic Development Strategy. It's called a SeVEDS. Have you folks heard of the term SeVEDS? Okay. SeVEDS is a federally prescribed process where a region looks at what their assets are, what their challenges are, what their opportunities are, and where they want to go. They identify some goals. They have to do that in a public way, they have to do that in a transparent way, and they have to do it in a certain process. The point of doing a SeVEDS, in most places, it's so that if I have a project that's going on in my region, a lot of federal funds require that my region has a SeVEDS if I'm gonna apply for those funds. And if you think about it as a taxpayer, that makes sense, right? Our federal tax dollars, we don't just want them thrown here and there. It's better, not that they're not, but it's better if people, if we're thinking, okay, these folks have at least taken some time in their region. They understand what's going on. They have some idea of where they want to go. They've got some plan of how to get there. And this project that they're looking for federal funds is part of that. It's not just popped out of the sky. So in some ways, most places, that's exactly why they do the SeVEDS. That's one of the reasons we did the SeVEDS. You know, obviously we also did the SeVEDS because we knew we were going to be losing Vermont Yankee. It's a lot of jobs. It's a lot of dollars just for our entire economy. And the secondary impacts of that we knew would be tremendous. So we needed to have a plan. And there was no plan for how we were going to recover from this. So in 2013, we went about this process of developing a SeVEDS. And we went throughout the region, met with folks, gathered our assets, looked at our challenges, and developed a plan. And the number one biggest challenge in the region at that time, and still I would say, is developing the size and quality of the workforce. And really what we've come to understand that means now is we don't actually have enough folks here for our businesses to be able to grow or for new businesses to come in easily. We're getting to the point where we have a pretty big mismatch. This may not be news to you folks. We don't know when we go out to different places. So 2013, we finished this federal process. We went out to the region. We said, here's our SeVEDS. Here are the goals, the things that we're trying to improve. We're trying to bring in more young folks. We're trying to reverse the population decline. We're trying to improve average wages. We're trying to improve the number of people who have technical training. So we've got really educated people who have education in nothing that correlates to our economy. You know, we've got this big mismatch, really smart people and nobody that has the training for the jobs that we have. So trying to fix those things. So we've got this SeVEDS, we've got this plan, and we said to the region, send us in your projects. Let us know. Again, you know, if you are thinking that you're going to be putting a project together, you're going to need funding, whatever, it'll be in this sense. So we've gone through that now twice. Three times. We just finished the third time. I get a little confused with my years here now. And so that's great. That's a pretty abridged history of SeVEDS. In 2013, the SeVEDS actions have been funded by the state, has given us a small grant. BDCC has matched that every year with funding. We have had some small federal grants that have come in, and we've gone out to municipalities. And the first year we went to Brattleboro, and we said, we have to grow the size and quality of the workforce. And Brattleboro said to us, well, that makes sense. And we understand we've got the biggest workforce, we've got the most number of jobs, but you know what? We're not the only ones. So tell you what, we will put up $50,000, but you're gonna have to go out and talk to everybody else, see if you can find some funding, which we hadn't actually originally planned to do. And so thus began our municipal dog and pony show. And this is now our second year. And so what we do two things. We come out, we update everybody, and we do ask, please put us on your town meeting warning at, not in your budget, but on your town meeting warning, $3 a person as a warning. We're happy to come and defend it. If the voters don't see the value of the investment, they're not gonna vote it in. We understand that. So that's one reason why we're here. We're also here because whether or not you fund it or not, we actually think we're doing some pretty important work that you should know about. And what we are here to update you on this evening, you will have in front of you, is the work that the municipalities have funded this past year. So this is SeVEDS annual work plan. Okay? This is not our SeVEDS. The SeVEDS is a 5-year work plan. This is what we said we're going to do this year in terms of activities. This you also have Alex's card. This document right here is what the municipalities actually have been funding. And this is really development of a workforce development system. And we'll talk to you just a little bit about what's going on there. How am I doing for time? Pretty good?
About 10 minutes.
Okay. So I'll talk kind of big picture here, Alex, and then we can talk smaller picture. So again, going back to that goal, we need to improve the size and quality of the workforce. Okay. About a year and a half ago, with a private sector workforce committee that we had, one of our larger manufacturers was looking out on their shop floor and said, hey, I see a lot of gray hair out there, and I'm thinking about growing. I better get a handle on who's retiring, what my normal kind of turnover rate is, and if I want to grow, what are the positions that I want to grow? And they started developing this model that was able to really forecast. They put in all their positions, their normal turnover rate, when folks were expected to retire, and also positions that they thought we might need if we're going to grow. And they were willing to share that model with us. We took that out to the 60 largest employers in the region. 35 of them filled it out. When the results of those 35 businesses filling that out gave us, in the next 5 years, we would need 3,000, we'll have 3,000 jobs to fill. They'll either be, people will have retired, it's normal turnover rate, or it's an estimate of new jobs that will be added. Keep in mind, these are just 35 of our largest 60 employers. We knew that that really captured only one certain type, really, of employer. It's our larger folks, and that we better get some sort of sense from our smaller folks. And so we did more of a confidence survey, particularly on the Western Corridor and up on the Route 30, with our smaller businesses, and said, how are you feeling about the next 5 years? Are you feeling like you'll be maintaining your size, potentially growing? You know, are you feeling like you may need to reduce? Folks are feeling pretty confident. So what this really was saying to us is, okay, we need to start finding some people. Our employment rate is coming down. You know, we know that our age is getting older, which means, you know, our workforce age population is not growing, you know, our average age. We've got to start coming up with some strategies here. We need some short-term strategies and some longer-term strategies. So in terms of our longer-term strategies, we're really looking at retaining and cultivating. And Alex will talk to you about the work that he's begun this year and will be continuing next year, working with all 4 of our high schools. And he's been here working with Leland and Gray and Thera, as well as Roger at the hospital. We're also looking at a shorter term strategy, which is recruiting, and particularly for highly specialized positions. And so this document right here is really talking about the different pieces, the different activities that we're starting to undertake. We want there to really be a shared understanding of what we're trying to do, where we're trying to go, and you know, we think that more folks understanding will help improve this process. I think what I'd like Alex to do is really briefly talk about one of our recruitment programs, which I would also consider a retention program, which is our paid college internship program, and then also briefly touch on the work that you're doing with the young professionals and the educators group. And I'm going to sit down.
Awesome, thank you. So as Laura mentioned, there is actually a bit of a disconnect between the education our young people are receiving and the economy where they're graduating into. So in the high schools, I've been meeting with all the guidance counselors from all of the 4 high schools to say what's going well in terms of career awareness and career readiness, what might not be going as well. And one of the biggest responses we got was our young people have no idea about the businesses in their hometowns, maybe even blocks away from where they live. And so if our young people aren't aware of what's available, how are they supposed to prepare their educations and their training to enter that economy? So what we've done is we've taken that hiring inventory. So we look at those 3,000 new jobs that are going to be coming. And we say, how can we prepare our young people, not just for any job, but for those 3,000 jobs? And so that's really what we're doing, and identifying, advanced manufacturing. A lot of those jobs are in advanced manufacturing. So we're going to be taking young people on field trips, for lack of a better term, field trips to these facilities, to these employers, and for them to say, yeah, that's what I want to be when I grow up, and I want to stay here in Vermont and do it, or even here in my hometown and do it. The same goes with healthcare. We've held one of our educator meetings. All of these guidance counselors, we held it at Grace Cottage to really promote the engagement of the people who are engaging with our young people in their careers with the careers that are really available here. So that's the high school program. It'll be running full swing in the fall. I'm continuing to meet with both leadership and guidance counselors to really align all these schools in their programs. The second program that we're running right now is the internship program. It's a shared internship program. It's loosely hosted by the 6 colleges in the area: Landmark, CCV, Vermont Tech, SIT Graduate Institute, Marlboro, and Union. And what that is it's an internship program available to really anyone who's taken a college course within the last 18 months. So even people who have graduated, these are available. Anywhere, you can come from anywhere to access these internships, but the unique aspect is that all of the placements are only in Windham County. So regardless of where you went to school, we have a ton of people from Greenfield Community College and from UVM. And they are finding paid internships here in Windham County. So they don't need to choose, do I pay the bills or do I start a career? They can leave school and engage in a career that they're getting compensated for right out of the gate. And right now we have a 20% hire-on rate full-time, which is a really unique statistic because I think, in my opinion, if a young person shows up and gets compensated for the hard work they're doing, they'll be more likely to show up on time. They'll feel more responsible for the work they do, and they'll start developing that loyalty to the business they're working for immediately. And so that's really, it's a recruitment tool to say, have you thought about taking a job in Windham County? Or an internship, just learning about this opportunity and getting paid for it.
The hire-on rate, I would just say, it was not part of our metrics, it was not part of our goal, was to get people full-time employment. It was really to get the exposure both for employers and college students. And I think the hire-on rate really speaks to the hunger in our employer community. They're really struggling to bring folks on. This program puts together a real great support system for the first few weeks or months of interns coming on.
And the support isn't just for the interns, it's also for the employers. Some employers might not have any idea what to do with an intern, and I think that's a very real problem. So I've got worksheets and I meet with all of the employers to say, okay, what workforce need do you need to fill? What would this intern need to do to best help your business? And that's what we help them do. The last program is a real recruitment and retention. It's the Southern Vermont Young Professionals, and it's a social and professional networking group for anyone between the ages of 21 and 45. So we define young loosely, and we define professional very loosely. You don't need a job to be a part of this organization. Even you can work in any field, in any industry. The name Young Professional, if I could go back and change it to something else, I don't know what I would. But it's really, I've had people say, well, I'm a fireman, I'm not a professional. And I would say, you absolutely are. And to really break down the barriers that, we're all working here in Windham County. And what this group does is we go around Windham County and we host social events and professional networking opportunities. Partly to really engage the younger people in these communities, but also to help contribute to the vibrancy of our downtowns. In December, we went to the West Townsend Pizza Night, community pizza night, and that was a really awesome experience. A lot of the people hadn't come or seen this place before, and I would be surprised if we didn't go back. It was a really fun night. So it was a way for us to learn about the community, to patronize our local businesses, and I think we had about 20 people show up from all over Wyndham County. So that was really exciting. January 30th, we'll be going to Grafton Ponds and doing a snowshoe skiing after dark kind of thing. Yeah, but in the next few months, we're also looking to offer first-time homebuyer classes. You know, we're going to have Brattleboro Savings and Loan come in and talk about financial management. So pretty much anything that a young person might need to stay, we try and provide that. So I always say, if you have friends but no job, you're going to leave. And if you have a job and no friends, you're probably going to leave. And the last really important thing is connection to the community. And those are the three main goals that we really try and solve in this group. And it's open everywhere. Yeah, are there any questions about any of that? I know I was a bit under the gun for time, but.
Yeah, I think we hit our time, but any questions from folks?
Just explain to me a little bit more about these projects for SeVEDS.
Sure.
Because I'm briefly looking
This is
through.
in the back?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
just briefly running through the additional projects, including SeVEDS. And the additional projects, there's like 9 of them at Stratton Mountain to upgrade the 3 base lodges, to do a quad lift, to do all of that kind of stuff. I don't see a whole lot here that
3 more on the back.
is, Stratton, and, well, there's a lot of Stratton and a lot of Mount Snow, a lot of ski area projects
Big concentration of employees.
that are going on. And can you explain that a little bit? Because if you're asking the town to contribute $3 a person per capita, how these projects really relate to Townsend specific and or the West River Valley. Because as I'm looking at any of these through here, there's not a whole lot going on in the West River Valley as these are outlined. So I think it's a little difficult for you and or this board to stand at town meeting and ask for $3 a person when it doesn't, and I know how it reflects in jobs and that kind of stuff, I understand that, but it doesn't really specifically talk about the West River Valley.
So what I would say, in terms of municipal funding is funding this work, okay? In here, what you're referencing in the back, these are projects, okay? So this is not our SeVEDS, but our SeVEDS is online at SeVEDS.com, okay? The SeVEDS is a 5-year plan. Every year, we put out press release, send notices out through Wyndham Regional, out to all of our folks who have put projects in, and we say, we are looking for projects. We have our 5-year plan to grow the economy. If you have a project, you should send it to us. We will have an independent committee, which is not made up of BDCC or SeVEDS folks, take all of the projects. All of the projects will be included. So if you take the time to send us your project, it will be included. And the most critical projects for growing the economy, hitting the goals of growing the economy, will be ranked in the vital projects section, okay? But all of the rest of the projects will be included. And so the reason that you see so many Stratton and Mount Snow projects is because they submitted them. If the town of Townsend has 5 construction projects, bridge projects, road projects, renovations to town hall, and you submitted all 5 projects next year, they'd all be in here. These are not our projects. Some of them are. Some of them you'll see are our projects, but there's no requirement that there are projects. And so this piece right here, these projects, we don't fund these. We don't fundraise for these. These are, so the rest of the region knows the types of projects that are going on. And also, so if folks are going for federal funding, they're able to say, okay, our region has a SeVEDS, and we're in it. Check. Doesn't mean they're going to get the federal funds, but it means they can check the box that allows them to apply. When we go to municipalities, it is really around the workforce and having folks be able to stay here and have meaningful employment and have higher wages. And this, we feel like that's reasonable, and that's really a shared throughout the region, because we all have workers. So Does that answer your question? Okay. Well, and I'll tell you, I'm so happy that we have been able to come and talk to you folks. Just really to be able to come and talk to you and start this conversation with you. We would love to come back and talk to you about this, you know? I mean, we don't, I wouldn't say that we have a high expectation that you folks are gonna slap this on the warning this year. We'd love you to. We're happy to face the voters and have them say yes or no. But regardless, we wanna come back and talk to you. This is important. You guys have one of our, you know, you have a critical employer here. And we'd like to be in touch and working with you, so.
Okay.
She is critical, isn't she?
Who?
You.
Me? Oh, absolutely. I'm beyond critical.
You are a very critical employer. Yeah.
I'm a critical employer. I'm soon to be another critical employer. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Okay, let me find my correct paperwork here.
Take 5.
Yeah, why don't we? Just to get organized. I gotta find all my pieces. So I'm gonna reconvene the meeting at whatever the heck time it is.
Yeah, it's 8
I
o'clock.
can't see that well.
At 8. Premature discovery. No?
Yep.
Yes,
Not until
Premature disclosure?
well, leave me alone.
I am. Going to.
All right. The next item on the agenda is correspondence from the auditors. The first part of that is a letter that came, it only is a separate page, that came from them, which had final numbers on it. I'm not sure, did they get that? Looks like this.
This came today. It's the one with the breakdown of numbers on it.
Yeah. We'd asked for finalized numbers for 2000, the last year. This is what they came up with, although these numbers are not accurate.
They're not accurate?
They are
Well,
not.
let's not use the accurate. They're not in agreement with the numbers that you have on the warning at the moment. And I have not, this just came in this afternoon about 3 o'clock, so I haven't I've been driving to get numbers. These were promised earlier. In any case, they still have some issues to resolve with one of the accounts. A couple of the other ones they're still working on. They do have, let's see, let's just see where we are here. Let me just hand this to Kathy for a moment, but I need it back because I didn't make a photocopy of it. That was your worksheet, and that's what we decided on. If you recall.
I do.
Okay. And close.
No, I like my deficit much better than
Yes,
this.
I do too.
Than the
And-
general fund
oh,
they
yeah.
got.
And I think we have a better surplus in highway and better surplus in equipment.
No, highway's actually up.
Okay. Then I'm thinking of the time combined total, which I did for the warrant.
Both of those two are up.
Okay.
But the massive deficit in the general fund, that cannot be right. I sat here with the bookkeeper. and
Well,
went over the
they
numbers.
received these numbers on some sort of spreadsheet back when. We were gonna have numbers. I have a letter from the auditors that this is supposed to be, I'm not gonna find it right now. Anyway, this was supposed to be here on December 2nd when we were right in the thick of doing budgets. That having been said, there is some disagreement. We can go over it or not, depending on how you wanna go. But we worked out these numbers that Kathy has in her hand on that handwritten sheet, and I've got the backup for all of that with Terry. And we've pretty well hammered those out in NIMRIC. That's been pretty set for quite a long time, as far as the town knows. We actually set our taxes last July, basically on those numbers, within $1,000. So I'm pretty confident in the numbers that are, and I have the tax sheets here as well. I'm pretty confident in those numbers that Kathy has in her right hand, less so in the ones in her left hand. That said, that came in today. That is an auditor's report. We can, and it was on a direct request from me and also from Kathy for the auditor's closing balances. Because they did send a letter, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, that said, we're done. Basically, we're signing off on the year.
That was
And-
before the end of the year.
It was before the end of the year. And,
Well,
but they have no numbers that aren't driven out of this office
Right.
either.
Which
And
these,
so-
frankly, they only started in November anyway. I mean, I don't wanna go too far in public meeting here, but,
but if this is what the auditors are saying, and we have a discrepancy, right, I mean, if we have a difference,
but that's been the drive of the last couple of months, is to get you to have some confidence in the numbers that you're working with, because we haven't had audited numbers. Wish that we had these last summer, because then we could have resolved any differences between then and now. Right now, you've got a finished warning from me. I'm looking for your signatures on. That has your balances, your surpluses, your deficits, all
Based on
factored.
based on
It is.
those and not the auditor's
Right.
report. So
That is
the
your-
auditor's report is gonna be different than our.
Oh, I
report.
expect it will be. And I
You know,
expect
a good
it,
example right here, equipment fund, the revenue was 287,000, expense was 322,000, and you got a surplus of 34,000?
but I will also guarantee in that the auditors, and I don't want to go too far out, but they don't understand that part of the equipment fund budget last year was 95,000 in taxes, which was a special article to buy a new truck. This is the year previous, but this ended up in last year's account. That got figured in. And I don't know that it's factored out of that. And of that 95,000, there was an additional loan for 40,000 from the Vermont Equipment Fund. And there is the supposition of 32.5 in trade for the Sterling. Built into that budget that was proposed and accepted by the town. A lot of that changed during the course of the year. I mean, we got the 40 in the loan. We raised the 95. We did not sell the Sterling. These are all assumptions based in this budget. The reality on the books and the reality in the history and the reality as I know it and other select board members here know it who've been here, is different from what the auditors see on a trial balance sheet that's printed out over the course of looking at it for an hour.
Right.
You need to understand the reality on the ground, which is the
So
actual
can
history.
we, excuse me, can we stand up in March and stand behind what figures we have? Because if this goes in the town report, is the auditor's
I
report.
don't think that's going in. I think the only thing that's going in is that statement that they've examined the books.
The auditor's report is actually just a paragraph, a 3-sentence, 5-sentence, whatever paragraph that says that they've looked at the books, they find nothing wrong. Or it's more elaborate than that, but basically they've looked at the books and they find accounting practices to be legal and legitimate and based on general accounting principles. These numbers, actually, they won't be printing in the report. What they'll be printing is your budget or portions thereof, once you approve the budget figures, which will contain surplus and deficit numbers. And they'll be printing the warning, which you're gonna be handing them to print. They don't have any editorial control over that. So in terms of the confidence that you have on the stage in March, I think that
We go with our numbers.
I would say you go with your numbers. I mean, I'm not
Because that's what
gonna
we're basing our budget on.
be, right,
We're not basing our budget on the auditor's report. We're basing it on what we know to be correct.
yeah. And what Terry has given us, what Laura from NIMRIC has provided for us, the way the year resolved, what you set tax rates on, what we've hammered out over the last 3 or 4 months in terms of a proposed budget, what Joe agrees with. Wake up, everybody.
See, I don't know how,
And I'm not gonna be here at town meeting, so what confidence you have, I don't know, but
because we'll have somebody to blame.
I will be, well, yeah, you will. I'll be taking minutes at another meeting somewhere else.
I think the difficulty we have is getting our numbers resolved somehow so they match.
Mhm.
And I don't know how you're gonna do that.
Well, I'd like to
I mean,
see.
because you're gonna have new auditors coming in.
Right. I'd really like to see this board approve the budget as it stands right now. I'd like to see you sign the warning tonight, but I don't think you have to I think you've got time to actually finalize the numbers in the warning, whether it's another 2 weeks or whether we need to make a motion out of session. But I'd really like somebody to talk with the auditors about these numbers and find out where they came from. Because I don't have a balance sheet that actually brings these numbers forward, to be honest with you. I'm not sure how they are derived. In any case, I've got, I don't want to say better things to do, but I don't have the time to sit down and work with them to, you know, get them to correct their understanding or vice versa, as it is. These are long processes. It takes a lot of understanding to understand the numbers, and I don't claim to understand them very well. But I've been dealing with them long enough to have a lot of confidence in what you've got in front of you. Based on a lot of labor by this board and by me and by Terry and others to essentially come up with these proposals. This is late in coming. It doesn't give us any rationale for it. And I'm not sure that the baseline understanding for how to come up with numbers is actually there. I mean, I don't think that the effort to do this, the sincerity of these numbers is wrong. I just think that there's something missing in an addition or a subtraction, but they don't agree with the ones that are in front of you tonight. They are elected officials, they have authority, I'm just hired, I don't, but there's an awful lot of work in what I did. And, while you're thinking of that.
So what are you gonna do with the numbers, the discrepancy, what would you like to do?
I don't know. Well,
I mean, today is the 18th of January. We have until the 22nd, I believe it is, of January to take any addition or articles that have come in by petition before we can sign the warning. This has to go out to the printer shortly. I'm not certain that we can start this whole process over again
no, I don't
and
think
meet our
we can.
deadlines.
That's the problem, and that's what I'm saying. There's a couple of issues. Number one, I don't have a problem going with the budget that we have, you and Craig
And Terry.
and Terry have devised. I don't have a problem with that. My problem is in the future, because you have to resolve this, so you gotta go back to 2015, 14, 15, resolve it, 16, 17, resolve it, so it's getting a bunch there to get resolved.
Why don't
Which I think you gotta do, you know, I mean, again, it's a job for a certified accountant, I mean.
If their expenses on the highway fund, between the two of them are different too.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think there's too much discrepancy between the auditors and what's actual.
We can try to get them, I can try to
But
get
I don't-
a synopsis of the explanation, but.
But it's not, what are you gonna do with it, even if you get it? That's the problem, because now
Yeah.
you're under the gun. So
I know
think
that the numbers that I've presented you are driven by my understanding, and it's long-term understanding, but I don't know that that's credentialed. But it is certainly driven by a meeting that Kathy and I had with Terry a couple of weeks ago to come up with final numbers, because the auditors were not coming up with, but to come up with final numbers that we could work
For
with.
last year.
And a decision was made, it wasn't a quorum, but a decision was made, we're going with this. This is the way NIMRIC, meaning the operators at NIMRIC, came out with numbers. This is the way Terry understood the numbers to be, the balance sheet, and she has a lot more experience than I do in coming to the bottom line. And it's numbers that I agreed with because I helped you guys set taxes last July based on these numbers. It's been my understanding, and I've not seen anything shift in that understanding. And Kathy's been doing this for 2 years and walking through different budgets upside down and crazy, but she's walked through them, and at every step we've been in relatively close alignment with how this is flown, what the justification for coming up with this number as opposed to that was. This has been a fairly consistent tracking of this. And I think at least Kathy and I are in agreement on this. I think the board has been working on budget proposals for the last couple of months based on something that looks like this.
Yep.
As I say, this has come in just at 3 o'clock this afternoon. I really haven't had a chance to look at it. There may be something that'll jump right off the page at me if I do take a look at it, where I can say, they've added a truck in here or not subtracted something. I mean, just
Well,
reading.
you may want to, I mean, it may be beneficial if you find yourself
Just-
bored
just-
with a football game to do that instead of,
Just reading the bottom line here, the library appears to have assumed the control of a previously designated account, the Chittenden Sewer account. Well, I know that the library hasn't taken over the sewer account. It's just wrong. Somebody doesn't understand
that's right.
that the sewer account is different from the library money market account. And because the numbers look similar, they haven't really merged.
But it became a problem. We had problems with the previous bookkeeper, right?
Yeah, but she can't merge, she didn't merge them either.
No, I mean,
Right.
I wasn't meaning to
Oh, no,
point
no.
fingers
Yeah,
on you,
no.
not in the least, but.
Right. But they don't end up merging on a balance
I
sheet,
mean,
so I'm not sure.
The sewer account, the library has its own sewer.
So
Yeah,
They're not on with anybody else.
but they don't have an account
No,
for funding it. They have appropriations from the town, which runs through the general fund. The library trustees have a money market account. To the best of my knowledge, I've never seen any set aside for library sewer.
no.
In any event, there are some questions here. I would hope it doesn't upset what's gonna be the rest of the evening of looking at budgets and other numbers. But this is new today, and it is well worth a look at, and I would hope the board would come to some recommendations may be too strong a word, but I would hope that the auditors would be able to work with the bookkeeper, work with me, work with you guys, in order to resolve some of the bigger picture numbers in this report.
I think we just need to go forward with this. I mean, again, you're under the gun time-wise now, like we usually are this year.
Yeah, you're pretty much at deadline tonight. I think you
Yeah.
can break it out to the next meeting or somewhere before that, but you're pretty much at deadline tonight.
No, we've
Yeah.
gotta, I think we go with these numbers that we have in our discrepancies with the auditors and or whatever can be addressed at a later time. I just think I think you need to move forward as it is.
Okay, is everybody in agreement with that?
Yep.
Okay. Then, we're going to move on to the second item that was added to the agenda. I have a letter addressed to the select board here, from Patrick Kiernan, who is one of the auditors. I am going to read this, and then I have a feeling that we're going to want to have a discussion in executive session after I read it. Okay? As of 1/18/16, as of today, I am still not in receipt of the 26 hours worked in FY15, 2 hours worked in FY16, nor the mileage reimbursement for attendance to the elected officials workshop in spring of 2015. I would like to request the select board vote on a decision as to where these funds should be paid from within the next pay period ending 1/22/16. Now, for those of you, a lot of you have seen this, but these two timesheets have come up twice. And again, for those of us who were here.
We're here.
No.
Those of us who were not.
Okay, you have copies, okay. Since the time of taking office within the Board of Auditors, I have shown up for all of my scheduled times and arrangements. I have been in touch with appropriate resources when questions of statute have come up or methodology of how to proceed as a sole participating auditor. I have worked out a productive and growing efficient workflow system with the current Board of Auditors. In relation to the hours in question, I have offered to supply documentation of proof of hours, as well as offering insight on my initial pay policy introduction with the town. Neither of these have been requested. I have made myself and a quorum of the Board of Auditors available for a special meeting with the Select Board, or available for a special meeting the Select Board had requested over their concerns and wanting to address the town report, though this meeting was not official business since the Select Board did not have a quorum. That right there, I will take exception to, because there are minutes of that meeting. We had a
You had a
forum.
quorum.
Right.
I have also resubmitted these hours for pay in good faith and with a request to settle this matter quickly and without further ado as to avoid escalating the topic and costing the town unnecessary additional fines. As the coming week ends, the 60-day period for good faith resolution, I will be following the counsel of the municipal legal representative who was referred to me from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. I will be working with her and following her outline of the next steps for collecting these unpaid wages and funds. Please let me know in writing by 1/20/2016 of the Select Board's decision on the funds and confirmation on how to proceed. Again, I would prefer not to have this a topic that needs more complication, party involvement, and funds negatively affecting the town we are working to operate. Thank you for your time on this matter, Patrick Kiernan.
Must be my memory isn't as good as his, because some of these things didn't seem to me that they happened in that order.
Okay, so, having had a chance to look at the letter we received and the timesheets in question, I would entertain a motion to find that premature discussion would place the municipality at a severe disadvantage when it comes to this issue.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, having found that we've placed the municipality at a severe disadvantage to discuss this in public, I would entertain a motion to enter executive session to discuss confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing the professional legal services to the body under 1 VSA Section 313A1F.
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions. So the board will go into
At
an,
8:20.
thank you, go into executive session at 8:20. I'm going to call the meeting back to order at 8:45. So, I would entertain a motion to respond or to instruct someone to respond to this letter that was just read. I'll entertain a motion to.
What you're asking.
I'm asking for a motion. Do you want to respond? Do you want to deny? Do you want to say yes? Do you
Well, I
want
make a
to-
mo, well,
You're gonna need to instruct somebody to do something.
It's hard to present it
yeah,
without being a negative motion.
No. You instruct somebody to.
You don't need a motion to make an
No.
instruction. Do you?
No.
You want it
we
anyway?
just need to make a motion on how we're gonna deal with this.
Right. As a result of executive session, the board instructed on. But if it's gonna be more formal, then yeah, it's a formal request for a writing. Okay.
So as a result of the executive meeting, I would make a motion that we instruct our clerk to write a letter to Patrick Kiernan, denying request for payment of timesheet submitted and of mileage submitted
From last fiscal year.
from last fiscal year.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the motion to instruct the clerk to send a letter denying the request for mileage and hours worked from last fiscal year,
Hours submitted.
excuse me,
50
hours
years.
submitted.
15.
Yep.
signify by saying aye. I had to stop and remember where it was.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, the motion passes. And if you do want some secondary help with that,
It'll be first at least,
okay,
you get it around,
I would be happy to help with that.
whatever makes you happy.
I'm sure. Moving on
Make
to,
it, make sure it gets there.
That's not a problem.
moving on to
It'll be certified.
certifiable, that's me, it's certifiable. Let's take the old business in reverse order, please. Knox box key assignment policy. There was a meeting at Legal and Gray that Craig and I attended last week where they requested an update on how the keys were going to be distributed and or held for the Knox boxes that are on the hospital and the 2 schools in town.
Hospital, not yet.
Well, the hospital, but there is
It
a
will be.
box for the
Right.
hospital.
Yes.
And there was a draft that we were kind of looking over as a sign-up sheet for those keys to make sure that we could keep track of exactly where they were and who had them at any given time. Kyle, at the last meeting, was asked to bring a draft policy, and since he is not here tonight, I have to assume we're going to put this on the back burner because I really don't want to start from scratch. I would like to get some kind of feel from our emergency management director as to exactly what needs to happen with these keys. Right now, they are residing in the vault.
So I make a motion that we table this item until Kyle,
Meeting.
next meeting, or when Kyle at least presents with a policy.
Okay, so is.
Table it until the emergency management director provides
Yep.
board with counsel on the issue.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so all those in favor of tabling this item signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. So now we need to go back to the proposed budget, which are your green sheets.
They are new, they're green sheets, and they say January 18th on them. Did we lose Joe there, Rich?
Yeah, he bailed on
He
us.
bailed on us, okay, so he doesn't need a budget. Lucky him. I can use his. Got out before the fun began.
Let's start with the general fund.
Well, then let me help you along.
What are you gonna go down through each one?
No, we're not gonna do each one. We've been through it enough.
I make a motion we approve?
Well, wait, we've got to talk about a couple of things in here.
No, we don't.
That's it.
Okay, I'm all done.
That's a
Got it all
synopsis.
done.
Looks good to you? Yeah, good.
You have it all
All
done?
right. What you guys decided, I can turn this a little for you, Richard. It doesn't really need to be on camera at the moment, but based on the budget that you worked out, I would hope that you've looked at it. You decided to spend $524,989. The revenue that's coming in against that budget that we're projecting is $123. Basically gives you you're going to need $401. You've got a deficit to apply, which brings you up to $436. So to spend $524, you need to bring in $436 in $436,893 in a to be raised by taxes,
Raised by taxes, sure.
which is reflected in the warning here when we get to that. Those numbers are different than you looked at before, but they've changed a little bit.
Well, I think I'd like to go through the changes.
Right.
I mean, other than the redundancy in the bookkeeper's office, what was the other change other than revenues? I don't remember any.
I think that's about it.
That was the only
I
additional
believe that to
expenditures.
be, right, let me look at my general fund budget here and see what I've got. We changed a couple in the finance office.
Yeah, but they
and
just
I
got
believe
moved.
that was, yeah, I believe that was it. But
Okay. So as I spoke earlier, when we were talking about the redundancy in the bookkeeper's office, now that we have payroll in-house, on page 1, 2, 3, there is a line, it's called other municipal bookkeeping, supposed to be, and there's $8,300 in there, not knowing what it was gonna cost us to actually train somebody, 1 or 2 people to be able to do the payroll piece. That's the only change that's been added since the last time the board met and went over this budget.
If you look at that budget, it's the general fund budget on the second to last page, page 7 of 8. At the very, very bottom, under total expenditures, you'll see that number, 524,989. Right next door to that, you'll see a number 498,959. That was the budget for the year we're currently in. And the budget for the year we're currently in, 2 columns to the left of that 493, is pretty close to level funding with 2 years ago. This year is the same as last year. Next year that you're proposing, the 524 seems to be up by about 25,000. I'd remind you that you have a $20,000 law enforcement in this budget built in. It's not a separate article. There's 20 of it, and with the finance office additions, there's another plus. You got a $35,000 deficit, which is on the next page, page 8 of 8. In order to get the numbers to balance out, that's where you come to 35,560, which is the number that Terry gave us a couple of weeks ago, and you've got on your handwritten sheet right next to you on your right there, Kathy, the 35,560.
So basically, it's essentially level funded.
It's level
once you
funded
put
for the last 3 years.
Law enforcement into the mix.
Yep.
And also your deficit.
And your deficit.
And you picked up a little deficit. So that's the general fund. This is the quick explanation of how we arrived at that number. Kit should have a look through it because some things have changed and whatever, but basically the board has been through this a number of times, line by line. And you'll see those numbers to be raised in taxes, to spend so much and raise so much in taxes in the morning when you get that far.
So if there are no other questions in the
General fund?
general fund, then we move on to the highway.
Oh, move to the highway fund.
Now, I will point out before that was the equipment. The request for expenditures from the highway, I don't know how to characterize it, Rob, Irv, would either one of you care to put a name to the request we received for the highway? I know we had a request for $500,000 worth of equipment.
Mine would be excessive.
Well, that's an equipment.
That was an equipment, but the request for the highway fund was.
Actually, it wouldn't have ended up in equipment. It was new equipment. It would have ended up
Yeah.
in special articles for new trucks.
Yeah, that was new equipment.
So it would have been special articles because you would have had to borrow money for those. So it would have been a special article in the.
Three
in the
new trucks?
Huh?
One new dump truck. One
Well,
down
you need new Ford because that was
Yeah,
now
yeah.
3 years old.
Bucket
Loader, loader.
Bucket loader. So, needless to say, the only thing that's odd about this budget is we decided to actually pull into this some reserves. So the expenditures, when you get to the bottom line, look like they're actually up, when in fact all we're doing is retaining money they haven't spent from this year and including it in the spending for next year. And that would have been in the, with gravel crushing and.
You have retreatment, you have gravel crushing, and.
Just those two. I
You have now, you get a little bit of fog line, $2,700.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
75 in fog
They
line.
haven't spent that 7,000 from 15.
I know.
He keeps on us putting everything in reserve. Well, I don't think that's right.
Well, I understand that. You actually haven't spent money on fog lines since 2012. I mean, if you want to go back far enough. This proposed budget is $551. It includes $60,000 worth of reserves in there that you can basically subtract out.
Right.
The year we're in right now is 511 on a budget. The year before this, which was 2015, 2 years ago, was $631,000. So you're actually down considerably, about 130 over the last 2 years. You have a surplus to apply, which reduces the amount that you need to raise. You want to spend $555, you get $246 in surplus, brings you to $308. You're adding in $60,000 that you already have in reserves that show up on these pages, so you subtract that out. And then you've got projected state revenue. It's only a projection, but you've got projected revenue of 113. Means that to spend $555, you need to raise 134.
Yeah, but on this 35 that was spent in 2015, that was reserved, right?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Crushing.
Where are, what line? Where
Crushing, not on the top. Second
crushing.
page.
Okay, yeah, the 36,000 basically, 35,999. You budgeted 50, you spent 35. Which, and the rest of it, I think, went into a reserve, roughly. No, I'm sorry,
Not there.
not that, well, not there, no. But last year you budgeted another 25 because you had, 25.
No,
You got 15, well, you got around 14 left over.
but that didn't get reserved.
Oh, okay.
That was the one that he got all upset about the fact that he thought it was reserved and he never came and asked it to be reserved. So that money got put back into the fund. The 25 we're talking about is the 25 for this year,
Yeah,
and then a proposed 25 for next year. We're rolling over the 25 from this year to the proposed 25 for next year to make a total of 50,000 for crushing.
yeah, but you took the whole 50 out of reserve? That was already reserved, wasn't it?
No, there's no reserve money in gravel crushing.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, yeah, I see you raised it right there, yeah.
So yes, the 25 that we're spending is actually, or including in next year's expenditures, is actually 25 that's budgeted this year that he has said we're not going to spend. So he's already asked that it be reserved.
The 16,
No?
the 2016.
Yeah, 2016.
Yeah, then the 2017 will be 25.
Right, so he wants to do 50 next year,
Yeah.
is what he's asked.
I was gonna say, we should look at file it, and there ain't no reason to.
And then like Craig said, the fog line painting, or the retreatment, again, that's in this year's budget, that's not, or this year's budget's gone to the dogs. This year's over budget, as I recall. Where is retreatment?
Retreatment is paving.
I know, but where is it?
It's down, keep going down. It's halfway
Oh,
down
it's
the
on the
page.
other page.
No, it's halfway down that page.
But on the bottom of the front page.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, just before the,
So in other words, 16, you got 72. Now, this year we're in now. For pavement.
yes.
what are you saying? Wait a minute.
You got 72,000 for repaving, what we're budgeting.
For this, between now and July.
2016.
Oh, I see, okay, you're looking at the total line, okay. Right, but that's also got.
But then the 80s for next year.
Right,
The 80 is for next year, that 70, 65 and 7, you already spent it.
yeah, it's gone,
You spent it on Grafton Road and Athens Road.
absolutely. And plus,
Because what you did is that you bought into Springfield paving for $200,000, of which you're only getting 129.
And the 80
In
comes
grant.
after June 1st.
Yeah, but that won't be until after July
June
1st.
The 80, yes, but the 65 and the 7, that's no longer there, that's gone. You already spent that one.
Yeah, no, all right.
That's this year, that's this year's and
yes,
there's,
so that's not, there's not a reserve roll.
no, there's nothing left.
Well, you said there was.
No, not in retreatment.
No, I got
I'm
no
sorry.
problem with it being spent, but.
Yeah, it is.
Overspent, I do.
It is.
No, but I mean, he just don't get nothing till after July.
Right.
That's right.
There's
You
nothing there.
ain't gonna do any retreatment till after that anyhow, right?
So there were two items in the highway budget
Should be.
that was showing
Depending on.
surpluses.
You
or
can
or
put your bids out, but
Reserve.
you ain't gonna
Reserve.
spend it
Fog
till
line.
after that.
Is it fog
Yeah,
line?
yeah,
The
yeah.
fog line and gravel, right?
Yep, and let me see, there's you got 25 there, you got 27 there, you've got, special projects. There's 33 in
Okay,
reserve from special projects, that's halfway down the
That's
second
it.
page. And that's for the Bridge 42s and
That's where
whatever.
it was.
Right.
You see it?
Yep.
In the middle of the page.
Yep.
So it's the 33 and the 25 is the majority of
Is the
that.
lion's share of the reserves, and then you've got the 2775 for fog line that you're carrying over as well. Those three reserves add up to, whatever, 60,575, or 775.
So is there any other discussion on the highway piece?
Yeah, but on that special project, there was any of that reserved in 2015?
I'm sorry, on the special projects?
Yeah, 75,000.
Yeah, that reserve has been carried for a long, long time, and we're taking the reserves out and, well, basically hoping to use them next year. I think he wanted, can't remember where his budget projection was for special projects, but you budgeted 70, you're adding 33, brings you up to 103.
Yeah, right.
Right, and you're carrying 33 over.
Yeah.
And that, because you already have that money, it's already in reserves, so to speak.
Yeah, as long as we get it for that.
Right, you don't want to raise it
It
again.
makes
They're
it
on-
No, that's what I was getting
You're
at.
not raising it again, it's gonna do the bottom line.
Right. It just looks strange.
Yep.
Okay, so are there any?
So
other-
as of right now, today, or as of the end of last year, whichever you want to look at, the only thing you actually had in reserve last year was the fog line money, 2775 and 12 cents. And there was about $6,000 left in retreatment. Well, that's gone after our job this year, the job we just spent it on, that will disappear. So these are new reserve accounts. On the balance special projects to reserve, that 33,000 is not a carryover. It's actually coming out of the 55 from this year, part of the 55, what's left. And the 25 from gravel crushing is basically because we didn't spend this year's budget at 25. So you're gonna reserve that as well.
So those are new reserves.
Those will be new reserves, but the money is already technically in the bank because the taxes have been raised. So after town meeting, if this budget is approved, we'll have to have a motion at the table to reserve these monies, basically. They'll add into the budget, essentially as a revenue line to offset the amount to be raised in taxes.
Okay? And then, excuse me, moving on to the equipment fund? Excuse me.
Again, you're looking to spend at the bottom line on third page, $104,970. You have to add into that, and it's on different, it's in a whole different set of books. How much money you're financing for trucks. You have 2 trucks that you're still paying for. One is brand new, we just bought it last year, T3, the International, and the other is the Ford. The other trucks, we owe money on one more, but that'll be paid before June 30th. So basically you have 2 loans out there, they total about $35,000, but the financing current right now, if you continue financing them, is $14,000 for next year. So you add that to what you need for equipment, you come up with 118 that you need. You apply a surplus of 32, it brings you down to what you need to raise by taxes of 86,080. He looks at me as if I knew what I was talking about. Can't stand. Oh, make a motion. That's good. It's in black and white, must be right. It's got a green cover on it too.
Are there any questions?
Half an hour.
Are there any questions about the equipment fund? I mean, again, this is where the biggest request from the highway department were, it was in equipment. And with the board discussed the fact that 2 of the pieces that we were discussing being replaced were still being financed. Okay. So if you're,
I'm sorry, I'm talking to myself.
if you're comfortable with the numbers, are we ready then to start talking about the, let's see, first thing we have to do is approve the budget.
Well, let me just say that those numbers that you're looking at here, if you take the equipment money, the equipment fund and the highway fund and merge them together, I don't know why, they end up as Article number 8 in the warning.
Or we can just pass the warning as.
Well, no, I'm just saying, these numbers exactly reflect what's in this warning on Article 7 and Article 8. That just takes care of Article 7 and Article 8. This is what you just looked at, is summarized in the town warning. The rest of the town warning you need to look at, but Article 7 and Article 8 are dealing with this budget and how much you need to raise the taxes. Article 8 is a combination of the highway and the equipment fund, which makes it a little bit confusing, but you know that anyway. So at least that much of it is that much of the warning is at least taken care of. So if you have questions with the budget, it's going to change the warning as well.
I make a motion that we approve the town warning for the town of Townsend 2016 annual meeting as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? The one item that we need to be aware of, the major change that happened is Article 3, which is where we're going to be discussing the hiring of a CPA in place of the auditors.
Yep.
And that won't change the numbers that are in that are actually in the warning, because that was split between wages and an outside audit in the budget. So the numbers are still exactly the same, they'll probably have to be moved, and it would make sense to move it officially on the stage, but it won't change the bottom line. The other issue that we're going to have multiple issues on Article 4.
Right. That's all right.
Okay?
That changes from the floor, that changes at the meeting, and then you do your adjustments then. Right now, what we're doing is just approving what our presentation are.
I absolutely agree. The biggest part that's going to have to be explained is going to the stipends for the listers and the auditors.
That's right.
You know, that is something that's new, and I don't know how much in detail we're going to want to get as to why we make this recommendation.
I think that we get in as much detail as we have to come March. That's not gonna be told until you get the questions from the floor.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just aware of the fact that this is something new that's going to create all kinds of hate and discontent between now and then. Okay, just so we're all aware that we'll have more people yelling at us. And the second piece of that that's going to cause commotion is the reimbursement for the training and conferences only. We're going to have to stop, and this is at the recommendation of one of the VLTC lawyers. We're going to have to make it part of your duties as an elected official to do your job. And that includes travel for auditors, that includes, not auditors, but listers.
Listers, yeah.
Yeah, in other words, if they have to go out and look at properties, that's all in their compensation. If you look at the budget, you'll find that we took the total budgetary amount on the listers and divided it by 3.
Yep.
We tried to make, there's a big difference between the listers
It
and
made
the
a
auditors.
solid figure. One could have milked the.
Yep, so each lister gets $6,000, that's
Correct.
for the year.
That's correct.
Yep.
The only thing we haven't talked about yet, and Craig and I have kind of bannered this about, I think the recommendation should be, and we might want to change this now before we actually put it in print, that the listers will be paid by a stipend of $500 a month. Do we want to, we don't want to do that?
I don't, I think it's $6,000 a year, the board can pay them $500 a month, or however they decide or come out.
What we,
You're gonna get a bill for $6,000
Exactly.
on July 2nd.
exactly.
You can get, but we're not, they're elected officials.
If you've got
We
time
can
clocks,
pay
then
that bill.
you time
We
clock,
pay
it's
that
gonna
bill
add up.
as whenever. You know, that's,
So that's the only concern, is the fact that they walk in on July 1st and say, I want whatever that stipend is, and we never see them again.
But again, the board has a responsibility to consider treasury and budget and all of that, and you can say,
You
well,
can
it
say
can't
no.
work out to more than $500 a month.
we pay $500 a month, that's it.
No, but that-
Because.
Should we make it
no,
clear? It's
Any
fine.
elected official, it doesn't matter. If it's me elected on the select board for $500 a year, if I don't go to any meetings at all, I can still crack that $500. I mean,
But see,
that's-
one of the reasons the select board
Don't give me any ideas.
I know you're in it for the money.
you pass a very complicated, very expensive budget, but the reason this board sits here every 2 weeks to approve the warrants is to say, geez, you know, Craig, or whoever your bookkeeper is, can't we hold off on paying this until next month? This actually isn't due for another 20 days. Don't put a date stamp on this until then. You have the responsibility of watching the budgets and making sure that we're not paying out in a given term any more than we actually have to. Now, where you have employees who are submitting time sheets, the highway department, me, whatever, then you pretty much have to pay them. But where you have elected officials, you can budget it out over the course of time.
right.
If you have a cap, and you do have a cap. And this stipend is differentiating amongst the different individuals in a group to make sure
Yeah,
they're
and
all
it's not
equally.
them demanding their pay, it's when we pay them.
Right.
I mean, that's how the statute
Right.
states, just like you said with the town clerk. You don't have to pay her until the last day of the fiscal year. You could give her a complete check then. Well, you could.
Yeah, but people have to live too, and in all
I
practicality, you're
understand
gonna
that.
spread
I
that out. No,
understand
I
that.
know
I'm
you're not
I'm
an
just
advocate of it,
saying.
right, there is, right,
And-
legitimately,
So
and
you-
I think that's what the attorneys
Yeah,
have
I was gonna
said.
say, because if you limit it, like I said, $500 a month
Well, you're not
per
front loading,
individual, then you're not gonna pay them all that up front and they're gone.
you're going into July 1st with very little working capital. You may end
That's
up
right.
this year with a surplus, but you basically can't use it next summer to pay your bills until your taxes come in
That's
in
right.
August. So,
Yeah.
you've gotta be able to budget out over the course of 4 quarters.
Now, on Article 6, have you actually checked to make sure none of those dates are before holidays or on a weekend?
Oh, that has been checked.
No, okay.
Yep.
And we're sure that the office is going to be open on those days?
I'm never sure what day is the next. Yeah, we're good. I need to check them, Joe checked them. I presented them, they were good when I presented them.
Okay.
But yeah, they've been looked at pretty carefully.
Okay, then there's your numbers on the general fund. And your numbers on the highway, combined. The library's another story.
Well, actually, they had a higher budget proposal. I've talked to librarians today. I have a quorum decision to bring it down to this number. It was up. And there were some confusions when they had their trustees meeting on Wednesday night. They actually proposed a higher budget on Thursday than this. I talked to them today at length. I talked to their treasurer at length today. I will have something in writing, probably tomorrow, from the chair, to put the number at this, 46,050. So, they're basically level funding with last year, up a little bit, but basically level funding with last year.
Okay. And you got the pumper, the traditionals. Social services, I will note that our previous guests did not submit a request to social services this year.
Well, they did actually, but it's not official, it won't show up in the social services report. Because it was not accepted, as a social service request. But the committee worked hard, this is up by, I think, $275, I think, over last year. Because there was one at the last minute that actually fit in there, but I do have all the requests and I do have what the committee decided.
Don't laugh.
I'm not laughing, what the committee decided, and that's basically the same as it was last year as well. And basically for the same
And
requestors.
needless to say, everything else is pretty much the same. Now, do we remember, the school is in the middle of this time, correct? We start and the school comes in after lunch?
Yeah, I think we start when school comes in at noon.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah, well,
Right after lunch.
after the
Speaking
break.
of lunch,
After the break.
speaking of lunch,
Just worried about dinner.
speaking of lunch,
I think that the town should do it like they always have.
do what?
Put it in the budget. That's what I think. I think it's incentive to get people to come to vote and stay.
Yeah, 'cause they won't
For
stay.
the
But they
second
don't,
round.
they come in, they eat and they leave.
Well,
That's why you don't have anybody in the afternoons.
Makes it
you won't have
faster.
anybody in the morning if you do.
Make it go fast. I don't know, we just talked after last year's town meeting, the runaround we got trying to get food ready to go because it was supposed to have been handled, it wasn't handled.
Was it, didn't,
No, 2 years now, I've put it out to bid, the 2 years now, selection is made, and it has been catered very nicely, but it has been expensive. It has been expensive. And there is, question about having 1,000 voters pay for lunch for 110 that actually come,
yeah,
or
but you
100
can
that actually.
make that argument having $1,000
I-
paid
I-
for grade school. but
I don't
that's-
disagree. I don't disagree.
But you think,
I think it's part of town meeting, that's what I think. But there's a motion on the table here.
No, there's no motion,
No.
no, the motion on the table is to pass the budget, this isn't. part
Well,
of
it's
the
actually
budget.
past the warning,
That's right, excuse me, pass the warning.
which includes the budget. You adopt the warning, you've pretty much accepted the budget. I can continue to see about town lunch. I mean, I don't disagree with Kit. I think it is an important part. I am not driving it one way or the other, and as I say, I've tried to bid it out. Well, I've bid it out for 2 years, so the board has bid it out and made a selection 2 years running. I still think that somebody out there ought to be volunteering to help.
Well, and this is just,
In this day and age, volunteering.
Well, we have a dance here
if you
once
come in-
a month, and
Yeah.
that's catered by Abbott Group
Well,
somehow or other, and I'm not sure how that's actually funded and paid for. I know the times that I've been here, I haven't been here that often, the times I've been here, you put a little money in the jar and it helps offset
Yeah.
that. And at town meetings, some people do put some money in, it does
Yep.
pay for about 25% or almost 30% of it in one particular year. There has been, question as to whether a couple of organizations could, you're only looking at $1,000 for lunch, I mean, at a maximum. Could put this together, or it could be catered by somebody legitimate that could actually have lunch for sale down here. So that for your $2, you get a little brown bag. But in any case, there are options, there are alternatives.
I think we do it like we have been doing.
well, I will point out this year is the presidential preference on town meeting day as well. So, from what I understand right now, there's going to be a polling place in the in the lister's office. And I'm not sure what's going on upstairs in the way of taking minutes and or who's going to be available and who's not.
I thought before we had a polling place upstairs.
We did, I'm not sure whether that needs, because of the presidential primary, whether that needs to be separate and nice, so people can think and make their vote in peace, or whether they can do it in the middle of the meeting. I know it gets a little loud in the back of the room sometimes.
It was never done, it was never done that way until the town clerk had back surgery and couldn't go up the stairs. At the
Oh,
last,
sorry.
at the
Back
last.
surgery, or no,
She had
shoulder.
her, no, she had her
Was
back
back
surgery.
surgery.
She couldn't go up the stairs.
Yeah.
And so, the plan right now, from what I understand, is going to be to use the lister's office. So there won't be somebody available to really get this area set up. It's always been the clerk's job to basically get the dining room and whatnot set up as well. So I'm not sure,
Well, it gets set up, it can be set up, I've done that too. It gets set up a day in advance, like setting up all the chairs upstairs. Kurt, Keats and I do that.
forever day.
And we set up the tables and chairs down here as well, but it doesn't happen that day, it's done before then.
I think she's aiming for 10 o'clock.
Did you hear that crack? That was my teeth.
They make it 9:25 if you're not careful.
you're getting back to old times.
I know.
Whose fault is that? Anyway,
I made a motion.
we're still talking about whether the numbers are right, because you wanna have lunch.
The
Now we
numbers
need
are perfect.
Okay, then we're gonna just pay for it out of our pocket.
Yeah, it'll
That's-
come
that's-
somewhere.
Okay, that's $200 from each of us, right?
It's all right.
Okay. I guess that's the way it's gonna be funded. Anyway, everything else is the same.
Glad you volunteered.
I said each of us. What part of each don't you understand?
You got a mouse in your pocket?
I'm okay with that, I said, I'm glad you volunteered. You're getting some marvelous looks at it
Well,
otherwise.
let's see.
I don't, you know, I'm not
I
gonna
know.
argue about a sandwich, I'll go home. I have to.
Kyle isn't here. Kyle hasn't gotten paid his wage. We'll just take it.
He has to.
Oh, has he?
He has to.
Okay, I guess we can't take this.
Anyway, so if that's the end of the warning, if there's no changes, if you don't want to change the stipend to the monthly amount, you want to just leave that total block in there, that's fine. But if there's no other changes, then are we ready to vote on it? All right, all those in favor of,
You changing the stipend to five?
Can if you want, I don't
Oh, you
care,
mean
don't
the
matter to
month?
me.
I would suggest with regard to that article, the stipends and all of that, that the board be prepared if that does pass, and I think that you can argue persuasively, that the board be prepared to change the personnel policy the very next day to reflect some of the changes,
absolutely.
so that everybody's clear. Okay. We'll get that pre-written too.
All right, so, I'm not meaning to lose me, what was I saying? Anyway,
Are we ready to vote?
All those in favor?
okay.
Well, the question was, is do you want to change that to the listers by a stipend of $500 a month?
Month, right.
You can do that, I don't care.
Well, then you're gonna change auditors to,
Yeah, no.
To 100. The auditors would be $100 per month. Except that really,
but that's for 3 auditors.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, 1,200 each.
Each.
Right, I'm sorry, yeah.
Don't
I'm looking at
confuse
it.
me.
I'm sorry, right, it'd be 100 a month.
okay, are you done playing with my,
Yeah, the problem is that if you put in your pay, if you put in your claim in October, is that a November payment or is that, and it's heavily weighted for, town report in November, December.
okay, we're gonna leave this alone because I'm not gonna have this argument tonight. All those in favor of approving the warning conditional to the possible receipt of petitioned articles, because that deadline has not passed yet. Signify by saying aye.
Right.
Right.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Do you have a clean copy?
I have a clean second page. My front page is printing with gribbles here, but the second page here seems to be relatively clean dated today. Oh, you keep that. You keep it. See how this one's just.
You want it above or below?
I would say below's more room.
Signatures below?
Sure.
That's really odd. Okay.
Well, okay, well,
Put it above.
some put it above, some put it below.
Let's get it all mixed up.
Somebody else figure it out. Set a precedent.
You wrote it right on it. I love it. He did.
Well, that's gonna linger until petition.
Don't waste any ink, or of course you're writing awful big there.
Here. I'll be the last to sign other than Kyle.
You just don't have to commit herself.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm done for the day.
In blue or black, please. That's
That's
all right, it'll photocopy.
Will red photocopy? Okay.
They know who I am.
And we'll get Kyle to sign on when we find Kyle.
When we find
But
Kyle,
anyway, we're not gonna post this, we're gonna hold it until petitions are done and.
until that date, and if there is anything that comes in the way, petitioned articles, I'll let you all know, and we will,
So when you clean
Adjust.
first
Do we
page.
have to petition for lunch?
are you hung up on lunches? Do they not feed you at home?
I'm eating all day
Yeah,
long,
he-
it's 9:30.
He's been a month and a half thinking all this stuff up.
I think so. I think so. Just to come back and be a, I didn't say it.
Throwing in his eyes.
All right, moving on. There's only one more thing on the agenda, and that is the town report printing bid, and I've got some, I don't have the original bid, I know
Yeah, you do.
that.
Huh?
No, I just have the today's piece.
No, I gave you copies. Everybody got new copies today, even though you took yours home.
This is not the copy.
Open it up.
You got new copies. You get that letter today. Yeah, I just copied it for you, because I knew you took yours home.
They don't say how much.
Yeah,
there's a lot, there you go, now you got 3 of those.
No, this is Rob's. I don't have one.
Okay.
You can have one.
Thank you. Anyway, the proposed amount for the printing on the town report is $1,237.60. I don't.
Yeah, it's right there in your box.
Whatever floats your boat. And the one question we had was whether or not that was going to give us time and if that include a proof, so we could take a look at it before they actually went to print. And according to the communique we got today, that yes, the quote include the proofing costs, and that's all it says.
Yeah.
So,
Laser proof included.
so that in fact, that's the total cost of the printing, and then we just have the postage on top of that.
But when are we gonna, how soon are we gonna get the proof in order to have it reviewed to make sure that it's correct?
Well.
Well, we're not doing this, the auditors are, and I have no idea how far they are or what reports they've got. They obviously need to work with the bookkeeper in order to get budget numbers, and you guys just passed the budget.
Yes.
So,
And this, I don't believe they have the school yet, so,
no, actually, they just passed their Monday night
yeah.
last, but I don't think it's in print yet. They may have a warning, but I don't think they have the breakdowns.
So the recommendation from the auditors was to go with Prospect Park on the bid. The other bids were really close, and they were kind of odd. Just,
I make a motion that we
Contract with.
follow the auditor's recommendation and hire Prospect Communications to do the
Brady,
printing for
Seconded.
town one.
is there any discussion on that?
I'd like a not to exceed number on that. It's a Prospect,
Well, not to exceed,
Prospect Communications.
Prospect
And
Communications.
how much is the money?
The money listed is 1,237.60.
1, 2, 3, 7, 62.
No,
I'm sorry.
3.
1,237.60.
Right.
0.60.
0.
So all those in favor of approving the,
Auditor's recommendation.
Or awarding the contract
Right.
for the printing of the town report to Prospect Communications per the auditor's recommendations, signify by saying aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. So the next meeting then would be February 1st. If there's nothing else, then I'd entertain a motion to adjourn at 9:30. Haha, I didn't make it this
So
long.
moved.
Second.
All those in favor? We are
Aye.
adjourned.